問嘅時間，咁我有好簡單嘅要求，咁就麻煩一陣咧，大家可以舉手啦。咁我指咗嗰幾位嘅時候，我哋睇翻個次序，咁就麻煩你哋先講講你哋嘅名同埋代表邊一間嘅報館或者係電視台、電台。咁跟住咧就我哋稍後咧就我哋台上嘅嘉賓咧就會逐一回答嘅。咁嗰度有一位，第二位係。
Hello, I'm John Da Silva from TDB Pearl. I would like to know if you already have an idea of which economic sectors will be the focus of your attention in the beginning, and whether you will be able to act independently, that is, without someone filing a complaint with the Commission. Thank you very much.
Let me just provide some preliminary comments, and I'll ask my colleagues to supplement if there is more information that we can supply. Firstly, on the so-called first economic sectors that we will tackle, the best way of beginning to answer that question is really to monitor the newspapers today. We have started to do so, and you could easily tell from the newspaper stories the sectors that are showing problems as of this point, and certainly these will come to us in two different ways. One is people will probably start filing complaints. The other is we do have self-initiation power, and that is really your second question. We can initiate an investigation in areas that we feel need tackling. And either we self-initiate or we receive a set of complaints that we have to deal with. If they're frivolous or if they're trivial, then of course we can provide that answer. But our obligation is to investigate, to receive and to investigate every complaint that comes into our office. So there is no way that we can ignore anything. And those are the ways that we will function. So if you look at the sectors without naming them, we all know from not just what the newspapers report on, but from evidence of data banks from other jurisdictions where competition authorities have been going for a long time, we see certain categories. Price fixing, bid rigging amongst the top. And even as of today, let's look at the European Union. Their competition authority, in terms of data in the last few years, we see over half, overwhelmingly, price cartel issues. It could be any kind of price cartel, whether it be air freight, whether it be e-commerce, whether it be electronic services of one form or another, whether it be bank charges, whether it be credit card fees. You see all different types of price cartels in data banks, in any of the competition authority. And similarly, if you look back at Hong Kong, we see price cartel and certainly bid rigging as severe issues. And those issues we have to tackle because by definition, they are serious anti-competitive conduct under what we call the first conduct group. This is 2 out of the 4 species that are serious. So undoubtedly you would know which areas I'm referring to, and we will have to look at those. In terms of initiations and complaints, I have dealt with that. I don't know if I answered your question in terms of general profile.
Comparing to other jurisdictions across East Asia and across the world, how big is the problem of anti-competitive practices in Hong Kong?
It's a very difficult question to answer, but a very important one, because whether it be domestic Hong Kong or internationally, people feel that Hong Kong is a free market. So where is the anti-competitive conduct? And I think in some ways this is true. We are very free. But what we've ignored is the special market structure within Hong Kong. We have a relatively small domestic market, We have occasionally several key players in each sector. In particular areas of our economy, we don't have 100 suppliers or 100 operators. We're talking about 2, 3, 4, 5, that kind of order. And in each of these sectors, when reviewing it, you could be facing different operators having a market share of anywhere between, let's say, 20 to about 30, that kind of region. We look at manifestations like price differentials. Some of our price bands are fairly narrow, and you have to start thinking, why is it so narrow? And sometimes we would look at product substitutability or service substitutability. And if we have a narrow band of that, that is another kind of manifestation. So in other words, although we feel Hong Kong is a very free market, nevertheless, we have different sectors with few key players. We have had manifestations of narrow price bands, low product substitutability. These are all manifestations. And frankly, in terms of an anti-competitive framework, we do need the law, because it is only with the law that we can start measuring what is a breach and what is not. If we cannot measure that, we cannot really tell you how big the problem is. And so as a start, we have to have the law. And then we have to start looking at, when we apply the law, what are the areas and how big is the problem and what is our strategy in dealing with it. And we're starting the cycle now. We now have the law, and we have to reduce the uncertainty on implementation by explaining the effect of the law. Now, we do have a situation of people being scared of the set of law because they don't know how to interpret this. So in terms of that particular issue, we have to, for instance, get across the message that really you don't have to be scared about the law, because if you do fair play, if it is a level playing field, if you do not disrupt the market, there's nothing to fear. Small and medium-sized businesses have quite a few exemptions. Then at the end of the day, what do we look at? We look at harm done, and that is harm done to your competitor by excluding them from the market. And we look at harm done in terms of the consumer. Did we hike up the prices? So in reality, the objective of the law is quite simple, and that is, what is the harm done? And in every economy, we have that type of issue. That is harm in terms of precluding other competitors coming in. Harm in terms of consumers not getting enough choices or getting a variation of prices. And it's really simple in the context of those two effects, and we look at those as benchmarks. So whilst I cannot give you a percentage figure of how big the problem is, but if we apply those benchmarks, there's no way that Hong Kong is free of anti-competitive conduct. It is there. And we've had a lot of complaints from the Consumer Council, from the government advisory bodies. There is a whole data bank on that type of issue, and we will look at them. Some of them are structural, some of them are policy issues, some of them are individual trade practice issues and unfair trade practice issues. So we'd like to look at each of those.
OK，咁另外嗰位。